Okay, so then we get to the arguments itself. Single interrogatory, and here's what I love. This gives them, talk about painting a picture for the public. This gives the defense, the Karen Reed team, an opportunity to reiterate everything that we saw play out in those two trials. Plaintiff served a single interrogatory asking Reed who she believes killed Mr. O'Keefe. Under oath, she answered the question directly. She did not do so, and she knows the individuals in the house at 34 Fairview and 29th, and police investigation hid. I think there was a word missing there. She did not do so, and she knows. Anyway, destroyed, deleted, tampered with, failed to gather, altered, and otherwise lost critical evidence that would have led to identifying the specific person. Same thing they reiterated in their first response. Here's the many things. After learning of a request for a court order for the inspection of his phone, Brian Higgins removed the SIM card from the phone, destroying both the phone and SIM card, then drove to an Army base on Cape Cod, where he threw both into a dumpster. He did not transfer information from his destroyed phone to his replacement phone. 2. After learning about a request for a court order for the inspection of his phone, Brian Albert destroyed his phone and replaced it without saving any information from the phone. All other occupants of the house, I'm surprised they didn't throw in another House Defendants there, destroyed their phones and did transfer data to their new phones. Brain, obviously a typo, but a common one. I've done that once or twice myself. Brain and Nicole Albert rehomed their family German Shepherd. Poor Chloe. After Mr. O'Keefe died, and there was evidence of dog bites and scratches on Mr. O'Keefe's body. Brian and Nicole Albert had remodeling work done to their home at 34 Fairview and then sold it after Mr. O'Keefe died. Michael Proctor, I'm sure it's because they just felt so, it was such emotional. They just felt like, I got to move. I can't live in this house anymore, knowing what Karen Reed did. Michael Proctor planted pieces of glass on the bumper of Ms. Reed's Lexus, suggesting that they'd come from a cocktail glass that Mr. O'Keefe was holding. But when Reed's criminal defense team requested testing of the glass, they discovered it had come from 5 different sources, including a single piece allegedly discovered by Proctor 2 weeks after January 29, 2020. Hey, guys, anybody have any spare chunky pieces of glass? I got to shake them up, put them in this little tumbler, and then sprinkle them on. Anyone? Okay, I got it. Despite having multiple video cameras set up inside and outside the Sallyport garage at the Canton Police Department, none of the available footage shows the back of Ms. Reed's Lexus or its right taillight. Proctor took pieces of the Lexus taillight off of the car while it was in the Sallyport, brought it back to 34 Fairview, and placed it around the area where Miss Reed found Mr. O'Keefe's body to make it look like the Lexus had struck Mr. O'Keefe. Now, obviously, a lot of this stuff is disputed and really not even proven, but certainly there's an inference, and there are suggestions that those things happen. Let's see. Proctor lied under oath in many affidavits, well, we know that, he signed, relating to when the state police seized Reed's Lexus. Proctor failed to follow protocol relating to the Lexus taillight pieces and Mr. O'Keefe's clothes, including failing to secure evidence and failing to document evidence. I mean, that was the least of his worries. After plaintiffs served this motion, arguing that Reed had not been direct enough in her response, Reed agreed to supplement her answer and under oath and be even more blunt. She stated that because of the actions described above and because of investigators' abject failure to conduct a professional, unbiased, and comprehensive investigation, Reed does not know exactly who fatally wounded Mr. O'Keefe, but that she believes it was one of the occupants within the house at 34 Fairview on the morning of January 29. That supplemental response directly and completely answers the plaintiff's narrow interrogatory and leaves nothing more to be compelled. So there. Specifically, plaintiff's interrogatory asked Reed to identify each person whom you claim is responsible. This directs Reed to identify specific individuals and then, for any such individuals, provide evidence supporting their allegation. Reed's supplemental response states, and then we went through all of this, acquitted of charges, blah, blah, blah. And then not only is this boldened and underlined, but I highlighted it. Based on the information and evidence available to me, I believe that one or more occupants of the house, 34 Fairview Road, Canton, during the early morning hours caused Mr. O'Keefe's death. Blah, blah, blah. Obstruction, destruction, concealment, all of the reasons They don't have what the plaintiffs, the O'Keefe family, is now demanding. Well, yeah, you guys, just seems a little unfair, don't you think, to demand information that you've done your best to conceal. That's that in a nutshell. That's what's happening here. This is the only example one on Exhibit 1, which we've looked at. This is the only truthful and accurate way for Reed to respond at this early stage of discovery. She cannot point to a specific individual as a culprit and cannot, for any such person, specify facts forming the basis for her claim. So, after serving the supplemental answer, Reed's counsel asked plaintiff to confirm that they would withdraw the now moot motion. Pursuant to Rule 9, a plaintiff's counsel responded, nah, we're still going to file the motion because, unfortunately, plaintiff does not believe the proposed supplemental answer satisfies the concerns raised in our motion. Plaintiff's counsel did not provide any further explanation. I don't know what they expect the court to do. I'm sorry, Ms. Reed, since you don't know today who it was that killed John O'Keefe, you can't use that affirmative defense. You can't do it. That's not going to happen. So I just wonder what, and remember, most plaintiffs' counsel operate on a contingency, right? So it's not like they're trying to bill hours. The defense team, on the other hand, especially if they're paid by an insurance company, and they could be, it's hard to tell who drew coverage on this because intentional acts are not covered by insurance generally. So, if I get in a street fight with somebody and then they sue me for damages, let's say in the Mark Sanchez case, the former Jet who, and former now Fox commentator, gets in fight with the guy who's dropping off or picking up the grease there in, where was he, Indianapolis. Unless you have an allegation that it was negligent on the part of Sanchez at some point, you're not going to draw coverage from his insurance company, or in this case, probably Fox's insurance company. An intentional act is not covered by insurance. Negligence is. So anybody who knows what the hell they're doing in these cases will sue based on intentional acts and negligence to draw coverage. Then the insurance company, they'll send you this letter. I don't have one here, but I've seen a few of them. Dear Mr. Bryant, we are writing to inform you that your insurance policy, blah, 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 does not cover you for intentional acts. In the lawsuit styled blah, blah, blah versus Bryant, there are allegations of intentional act as well as negligence. As a result, we will continue to provide a defense for you for the negligence claims and reserve our right to limit or reduce that coverage as the case develops. Meaning, okay, we're there, but we're reserving our right to pull coverage from you if, as this thing unfolds, it looks like nothing was negligent. It was all intentional. We don't know for that. The reason they cover their butts that way is because if an insurance company right out of the box says, not providing defense, not providing coverage, good luck to you. They could be sued if it turns out they should have provided coverage for what's called first party bad faith, because it's first party because your relationship is first party with the insurance company. That's the contractual relationship. Well, you screw that up, and you might as well just open up the piggy bank, because I'm going to get punitive damages like you will not believe. So that's why sometimes you get coverage when in the end you shouldn't have, and you may not get it through the whole course of the case. That's kind of the case here. So my point is, defense attorneys bill by the hour generally. Plaintiff can, it's 33 and a third % in most cases, and then when you get to trial, it jumps up to 40%. But it's all on a contingency. So if you don't win, you get zero. And every bit of money you put out up front, you're banking on getting back. You might not. And so to be nitpicky about this, to what in my opinion, is a loser of a motion based on the supplemental response, just move on. But they're either trying to be hard asses because I think it's sending a message, ooh, look how tough we're going to be right out of the box, or they're stupid because they're just spinning their wheels. And the court can't do much more than say, counsel for Karen Reed, you've provided everything you know at this point. Do you intend to provide additional information once you obtain it? Oh, yes, Your Honor. We of course we will. Okay, great. Then O'Keefe family attorney, shut the fuck up. Okay. Let's see. Plaintiff's obstinance continued. We have conferred about it. We provided you a detailed motion. You believe the addition of 4 sentences addresses those concerns. The court will need to help us resolve this dispute. A copy of the correspondence is attached. Yes, and we have gone through that in some detail. Let's see. However, as described above, it now appears that this was never about addressing discovery issues for plaintiffs or getting the discovery plaintiffs believe they need. Rather, it is the latest attempt to use the court to launder incorrect information about Reed to the media and the public. So, am I helping them? Am I helping the plaintiffs? I'm just discussing it with you. You know, it may help them, may hurt them. I don't think this kind of publicity helps because it makes it look like it highlights the reason Karen Reed doesn't have the information they need to respond to their very generic question, who is responsible for the death of John O'Keefe? Well, we'd know if there wasn't so much cover-up. It just seems to me it highlights the wrong thing if you're the plaintiff. Reed believes there was insufficient evidence that will be, Reed believes that there is sufficient evidence and there will be more as discovery proceeds that someone at 34 Fairview in the early morning of January 29 killed Mr. O'Keefe. But discovery is just beginning. Plaintiffs have yet to produce a single document, and no one has taken a single deposition. I mean, you're just making my point, and the judge should just look at that and say, counsel for the O'Keefes, did you miss this? Miss this part? Did you? You're not. Okay. More importantly, for these purposes, the questions of whether Reed can ultimately prove the elements of this one defense has nothing to do with the motion to compel. If plaintiffs believe that Reed cannot satisfy her legal burden as a result of her discovery responses, or for any other reason, they are free to assert that her affirmative defense should be dismissed at the appropriate time. This would be like bringing for the defendants to bring a motion to dismiss. I mean, they had the option to do that, but they know it'd be a loser. They could bring it right now. And the court would say, well, wait a minute, at this stage of the game, we have to take what the plaintiffs have said at face value while the case is developing. And I can't dismiss because they haven't gotten there yet, as long as they state a claim upon which relief can be granted, which is the federal 12b6 motion language, but it's similar in most states. Basically says, on its face, do they state a claim for recovery? Of course they do. Now, let me tell you a personal experience. I was lucky to have this opportunity, really. When I was still in law school and I was a law clerk, we did a lot of Prop 65 stuff in California, which is, Prop 65 is pollution control, because they're nutso there about that kind of stuff. So I was defending some folks. And I was assisting the attorney that was handling the case, and I became what is called, a certified law student. And what that means is you can actually argue motions in court in a real case, as long as your supervising attorney is, in the courtroom and has signed off on it. So it's kind of pressure packed, but challenging. So I did what's called a demurrer, D-E-M-U-R-R-E-R, demurrer. In California, I just noticed this again. I love this. Missy made this little icon thing up here, this little badge where we have, it's either a cup of cocoa with marshmallows and a gingerbread man enjoying it like a hot tub, or he's actually melting to death. I'm not sure which it is. But I appreciate her effort in putting those together. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah. So anyway, the case, in our opinion, felt like it could be demurred, and a demurrer can be filed instead of an answer. You serve me with a complaint, I look it over, I say, this is bullshit, but we got to go forward. Well, sometimes you get a complaint and you look at it and you say, if everything on here that they say is true, it's a crap case. We should win this. So I developed the demurrer and filed that instead of an answer. An answer means, okay, judge, we're in. Let's start discovery, we're in. So we go to court. I argue the demurrer. Judge, if all these things are true as they say, there's no case, this should be dismissed. And we won. We won. Now, sometimes you win a demurrer and it's not really a win because the court will say, demurrer is granted with leave to amend. So what they're saying is, Mr. Plaintiff, you screwed this up. I'm giving you 30 days to fix it, and then they will represent it, and then maybe they fix it, maybe they don't. But in this case, my argument was so good, I like to think, that it was granted without leave to amend, meaning there's nothing they can do to this complaint to fix the problems. So I was pretty excited about that. And then I got to be a real attorney, and it was all downhill. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, let me put this back on the screen for us here. Okay, where was I before I got down that rabbit hole of self-congratulations? Oh yeah, I was talking about that they could bring their motion, as I was talking about. Plaintiffs believe she can't satisfy, they can bring a motion. But Reed's only obligation in response to plaintiff's interrogatory was to answer it fully and directly with what she has done twice. Because remember, they answered, then they provided a supplemental answer, which was nice. Okay. So plaintiffs also repeatedly state in their interrogatory, merely, somebody asked me this once, see these brackets that are around the M? That generally means that that was somewhere in the middle of a sentence. And I know a lot of people know that, but maybe you don't. Some of these, I'm kind of a stickler for grammar and things, even though you'd be surprised by the way I talk, but that means it generally is picked up in the middle of a sentence. So, merely request the disclosure of facts allegedly known by Ms. Reed, which form the basis for her affirmative defense, which is explicitly anticipated and authorized by Superior Court Rule 30A. And then they cite the law for that. Plaintiffs even provide a direct quotation of the portion of that rule allowing parties to seek an explanation for particular claims or defenses by explicitly referencing them. However, plaintiff's interrogatory did not and could not ask Reed to state the basis of her affirmative defense because plaintiffs served the interrogatory more than a month before Reed first asserted her affirmative defense. Now, that's something I hadn't checked the timing on this thing, but they were asking, the plaintiffs were asking, even before they knew Karen Reed was going to say, the House Defendants done it. Even before she said that, they were asking her to identify who she believes killed John O'Keefe. Now, that would open it up to, the universe. Who, Ms. Reed, and the universe do you think killed him? Well, that's not, until I assert that affirmative defense, it's none of your business and none of my problem. It's not my problem. That's for you to figure out. But the fact that they asked that question before the affirmative defense was even thrown out there tells you a little something about what their game plan was. Okay, a month before, I have to check the timing on that. That's ridiculous. Had plaintiffs served an interrogatory after Reed filed her answer and asked Reed to identify the factual basis for her defense, she would have provided a different answer. But Reed can only answer the interrogatories that are posed to her. So to point out to the court here that even procedurally, they screwed this up. Not just the attempt at this one question to come up with an aha moment. Karen Reed, who do you think is responsible for the death of John O'Keefe? I don't know yet. Aha! To this point, if plaintiffs have additional questions they want Reed to answer under oath, they have the right to depose her. Oh man, I'd love to be there for that. And if necessary, serve additional interrogatories addressing the topics they believe remain undiscovered. Reed will truthfully answer any appropriate questions posed to her. Finally, plaintiffs argue the merits of certain objections Reed asserted in response to their single interrogatory, but these arguments are completely unnecessary because Reed did not withhold any information. We talked about those objections as I went through them, right? You always make them. You don't want to waive an objection. You always throw those in there, and then, because you're just a good person, I'm going to do my best to answer your question, which is what she did. But they're saying, it doesn't matter about those objections. She answered as best she could at this point in time. Consistent with standard practices in Superior Court, Reed provided objections she wished to preserve for the record. Yep. And then provided a full substantive answer, subject to and without waiving such objections, end quote. By pretending otherwise, plaintiffs seek to convince the public at large, again, that Reed is somehow being evasive when she is not. Put simply, Reed has answered the plaintiff's single interrogatory, and plaintiff's frivolous interference to the contrary are simply untrue. And harumph to that. Okay. Anyway, I'm sorry I got down the rabbit hole of all the wording here. I've been totally ignoring comments, as Missy knows I do, without really purposely doing it. Who is she claiming is responsible? Who is she claiming is responsible for? I think Brooklyn 10952. The question is simply, who's responsible for the death of John O'Keefe? Well, what can Karen Reed tell them at this point? Those people in the House, those I've called the House Defendants, those folks, we don't know specifically who, how, when. We know generally when, and we know generally where. In the house, garage, basement. But that's all they know, and that's all that they can tell the court at this point, or tell the other side. and then hopefully, the chips will fall where they may once they get beyond this discovery. And that's really going to be what this case is all about. How well, for the affirmative defense, remember, an affirmative defense is the burden is on the defendant, in this case, Karen Reed. She's being sued. But the affirmative defense that it was the House Defendants puts the burden on her on that issue alone. They get to go digging through all kinds of stuff to find out the depositions of the McAlberts, Higgins, all of that. Oh my gosh. I mean, you get a sense of why this is going to play out until, with any luck, I'm still alive. I'm thinking 27, maybe. And will those depositions be, videotaped? Will they be made public? No, not now. Maybe after the fact. Yeah, it's not like they're going to be having, like Long Crime or Court TV or Justice Serve TV. It's going to pool camera those depositions. But man, wouldn't that be exciting? Whew. Why didn't the O'Keefes sue the House Defendants? Well, obviously they're in concert with one another. Coffee Cake 58601. I mean, all along they've been in lockstep. The O'Keefes believe that story. The O'Keefes, how do you sit there in criminal court, 2 trials, Paul O'Keefe, everybody else, watching the trial of Karen Reed, if you don't honestly believe she was involved in the death of John O'Keefe? I don't know how somebody would do that. You have to believe it. And all the House defendants believe it or want everybody else to believe it because they are truly responsible. So it'd be counterproductive and actually kind of bizarre for the O'Keefes to all of a sudden turn on the House defendants. That would be an interesting wrinkle. I would love to talk about killing your own. Yikes. But I don't see that happening. I think they're going to continue to be consistent in pointing the finger at Karen Reed. Okay, now I'm going to scroll. I'm going to do some scrolling now. I've heard the term, as I'm sure you have, doom scrolling, right? I like the term joy scrolling. So I'm going to do some joy scrolling right now. Good to see everybody here. Good to see some of the regular folks, and we do appreciate everybody who is a member. We do, and we try to make it worth your while. When we do these, they'll be up for a few days, and then they will probably flip at some point to public. But this gives you a chance to not only get into the info first, but also share with the community, talk about it, ask questions, all of those things. So let me see if I've got any more in here before we wrap this up. Okay, well, I appreciate that. And I want your insights too, Karen Cole, UK lawyer. I would, because you're a UK lawyer. I always like to contrast processes or processes. One of the things I loved about I've been to UK many times, but in London itself, when I was doing the show, The Legal Edge, and I always tried to get into a courtroom to do whatever we were doing. And when I went to London, and I wanted to get into the courts of London, and that's where I got my wig, which folks may remember from Halloween. I went to the shop there. I wish I could grab it, and I would show you and get the address and everything. But it's a place in London where they've been doing these wigs for hundreds of years. And I wanted to get in the court and, do a segment there. Well, no cameras in the courtroom there. Nobody in the UK. And believe me, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Karen Cole, UK lawyer. But they're not allowed in Britain. I'm sorry, they're not allowed in England. I learned they were allowed in Scotland. So hop on a train, me and my partner, cameraman, hop on the train. We go up there, and I'm excited because, those courtrooms are, historic. They're just, you've seen them recreated, or maybe in some cases they've allowed actual films to be used to be shot in a real London courtroom. But they're amazing. They just, they reek of, legal history. So I'm looking forward to that. And now we're going to London, man. It's going to be great. So we get there, and we're set up at the building, at the address. We're looking around. I said, this is like, this stuff looks like if it's 20 years old, I'd be shocked. Brand new courtroom, brand new. There in Edinburgh, or was it in Glasgow? It was either Edinburgh or Glasgow. So we shot the piece. I even involved like a bailiff that was very funny and helpful. Quite a letdown because I really wanted, the authenticity of the old England courts from which we've basically borrowed most of our laws. So, um, yeah, that was, I love that town. I mean, London, I think is great. I used to call it a clean New York. That was my best description of it. Ta-ta. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, yeah, we certainly didn't see one. So now let's talk about that for just a second. How does that happen at this stage of the game? What do you get? Private investigators who probably are going to be stonewalled at every move in terms of getting information that was only available to the cops back then. We know a lot of it was destroyed. A lot of it was never recorded, both video type recording or any sort of note taking or typical investigative materials. Some stuff you'll never get. You can't turn back the clock and get what was either ignored or destroyed back then. So it's a burden. That's why this will never go to trial. That's another reason it'll never go to trial. But I do believe things will be exposed that were not exposed during the criminal trial. Oh, this could be. I think it is their version. It could be Brooklyn. It could be PDF misspelled, but I think it's their shorthand for plaintiff. That's just my best guess. Yeah, I agree with Sherry Schreiber. I've just never seen that before. Never. Yeah, this is Mark Diller has not gotten rave reviews from those who have seen him in action. So maybe he's a paper lawyer. A lot of lawyers are very good on paper, very good. And if they do their job right, they never have to, really prove themselves in court. The best attorneys, of course, are. I think it's more important to be if you're a litigator, not if you're a transactional attorney or in the UK. And again, my UK friend can tell me if I'm wrong and this has changed. But they have solicitors and barristers. Barristers are what we would call litigators here. Solicitors are more like transactional attorneys. They may end up in court for one reason or another, but it's not their every day. It's not like we're in there pounding away trials, motions, aggressive adversarial process. So yeah, and the same thing with our transactional attorneys. They may end up in court here and there, but it's not their day to day. So I don't know what his background is. I haven't really studied him. This is true. Commercial free. Okay. Okay, let's investigate this coffee cake. I've just started agreeing with other commentators. What, there are other commentators? I do not believe Ali ever went to the home to pick up Colin. I think that was just a lie. Yeah. And Colin obviously is not part of this mix. And it tells you that even the Karen Reed team has decided whatever's out there regarding him, if you believe he left earlier, as some of the evidence suggests, whether you believe Ali or not, it's too tenuous, and they're not going after him. Yes, I have to give him a pass on this, Karen. Yeah, Brian, Brain. I get it. Oh, that's sad. Pinky promises. Thank you for listening while taking care of sick grandbaby. Oh, I have 2 of those now, and they are a hoot. It's hard to believe the one that's now about a year and a half, almost 20 months, and just like went by like that. And now we see the new baby who's 2 months. 2 months? Not even 2 months yet. Man, they just grow up so fast. Because I'm just cruising. I'm joy scrolling. I'm fascinated by the UK stuff. So Karen Cole, apologize for continuing to highlight your stuff. We have a big decision coming through our courts about an airport expansion being disputed because of the pollution it will cause up against the benefits of more flights. I mean, that's growing pains. Hard to put. I'm guessing you're talking about London, perhaps, maybe somewhere else outside of London. But yeah, it's growing pains. What people want versus what the environment can handle. This is so true. Missy does awesome work, and we appreciate everything she does. Yes, we definitely do, Sherry. Thank you for pointing that out, as we don't point it out often enough. Okay. Luton Airport. Luton. Is that, did you just misspell London? No, is that just, where is that? Give me some help. Give me some help before I wrap this baby up. Don't forget tonight we have Serena Townsend coming on. We're going to go into Luigi Mangione. Something happens, of course, in the Brown University case. We will obviously get into that, but the focus is shifting to Luigi Mangione tonight, and then I'll go there tomorrow. We may talk about it more tomorrow night. There's some stuff happening that we've been following, that Linda's been following and been involved with. It may preempt part 2 of Luigi Mangione to Friday, but we'll get it all in one way or the other. So much going on in that case. It's such an important case and such a weird factor with this sympathy for the alleged killer. I just can't get past it. I want to hear people tell me that in person, on camera, and I will definitely share that as I pop down there tomorrow. The weather should be perfect for nut jobs to be out there, and that's what I'm looking for. All right, then. Okay, nobody's going to tell you, can't tell me where Luton is? Come on, before I close this up, I feel I need to know. I could actually go to Google, but, come on. Lovely onesies. Yeah, I got one. Not for me. I got a different onesie. It's a different story. But yeah, I got one for the new little one. I'm sure, she's growing so fast, she might get a couple of weeks out of it, just growing so fast. Okay, let me wrap this up. Oh, airport news from Courtney. We have a great airport, but glad I don't live right next to it. Yes, I think that's safe. That's the problem with, airports. They generally have to be near population centers, and so some folks are, they're going to be put off by their proximity. Why? Because property values are lower near the airport, so sometimes it's easier for people to get, into the market doing that. Solicitors, barristers, not the same. Barrister has to sit the bar exam. They have separate regulation. A solicitor can represent the magistrates, but not crown. Oh, very good. Okay. I appreciate that, the Kim. So I'm kind of right that you don't have solicitors are not in their day-to-day, but they have limited power in terms of when they can present in front of anybody, including a magistrate. Okay, that's good to know. So you have to go to that. That's weird. That almost sounds like a solicitor. If they don't sit for the bar exam, it sounds like, and I mean this in the best way, like a paralegal or a law clerk. Is that true? I always thought solicitors and barristers were kind of equal footing, other than the areas of practice. So that's interesting. I did not know that. Okay, guys, I'm going to get out of here. Don't forget, come back 6 o'clock. Linda Kennedy Bodden will join. No, wait, wrong. Sorry. Serena Townsend will join. I got my days mixed up. And we'll get into Luigi Mangione. In the meantime, though, thank you so much for joining. Appreciate it. Good to have you along as members. And we will see you next time right here on Justice Served TV. Please try to do the right thing.